Hello. I'm going to have a look with you now into the question of what forces are used to get people to accept the status quo. Meaning, how come we allow ourselves to be lived by this world instead of moving ourselves? How come we kind of tend to look at the world and what's going on, all the wars, all the abuse, the starvation, the destruction of Earth, animal abuse, etc. And yet we do nothing about it. How come that has gotten to this point? That it's like, do we not want to fix this, or are we unable to fix it? Are we truly inferior and completely powerless? Because that's how it looks at this point, is that people tend to complain a lot and talk a lot about what is going on in the world, saying how bad all those wars are in Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan and Libya and God knows where. And people talk about how bad it is to kill animals, and people complain about the money system and the debt. I mean, we are watching literally this economic crisis taking a hold of each country one by one, like a domino effect. I mean, at the moment Greece is the first one to go down, and it's going down really fast, where we see Greece becoming, I mean, like a third world country, where lots of people have to survive on food packages that are handed out in schools and stuff, and lots of people find themselves on the streets. I mean, like, middle class people are now out of a job, no money, no healthcare, no social security, nothing, because of this debt, because of this crisis, and because of all the cuts in the government expenses. And here we are, the rest of Europe, the rest of the world, just watching it happen, and we are kind of aware of what's going to happen next. I mean, obviously Greece is going to take down Spain, Italy, France, Germany, Belgium, England, all of Europe, America. It's going to be like a domino effect, and everything is going to collapse, as what we're seeing now with our eyes, because we're in massive debt. We cannot possibly pay it back, because our entire way of living is actually completely constructed around always eternally creating more and more and more and more and more debt. So obviously it's actually designed for us to never be able to pay off this debt. We will never be able to, because this debt isn't just something that we have accumulated in our lifetime. It's something that has been building up over generations and generations, and now we're at this point that we are actually faced with apparently the fact that we cannot pay it back anymore, or we cannot lend more money because then the system's going to crash or something. So I mean, here we are sitting and watching this all happen, and many of us are panicking and very afraid of what might happen. Maybe even starting to prepare themselves, trying to look for ways to make more money, or trying to look, desperately seeking for ways to avoid being confronted with the economical collapse. For instance, people moving abroad, getting a house somewhere in the mountains, far, far away from the system, trying to find ways to protect and save themselves and their family. Which is also, just a form of escapism, just a form of feeling powerless towards this entire world, feeling like we're not able to fix this in any way whatsoever. So what I'm going to talk about right now in this interview is the question of how come we have come to accept this way of existing. How come we have how come we're not moving ourselves? How come we're not changing the world to be what is best for all? How come we're not actually practically moving ourselves to create a world that is heaven on earth? And yeah, heaven on earth, because that's what we all want, isn't it? We all want heaven on earth. And if you have a look at the system that is required for us to experience heaven on earth, and to provide us with heaven on earth as a way of living here, then and if you look at capitalism, because capitalism is a system. Capitalism is just a system, like economics is a system that is here to basically manage human life, to distribute resources, and to make it possible for people to live. However, with capitalism, as what we have right now, something is actually terribly wrong. I mean, because there is more than half of us, of the world population, and I'm talking about humans alone here, are living under the breadline, which means that they don't even have food to eat. They cannot even survive. They're literally starving to death. So that is just an indication that something is terribly wrong. However, we seem to have always been existing within this belief that the capitalist system is life, and it's just how it is, and we cannot change it. And that's why we never have changed it. Even as it's now collapsing, we're still not moving ourselves, and we're still not considering any kind of change, because we really believe that it's impossible. But if you have a look, then that belief is just that. It's just a belief. It's not facts. It's not based on research, investigation. Because the truth is that we're not actually, there is a very few people who actually know how the system works. And those people are usually the ones who have everything, who own everything, and who are in control. And who are making everyone else believe, obviously, that capitalism is the only way. Keeping everyone else dumb, so that people will never question the system or attempt to change the system. The only ones who truly know how things work are the ones who are in power. And they do everything in their power to make sure that everyone else stays ignorant by not educating people properly as to how the system works, because then people might notice that things have to change, because because we're able to change it. consider that if we know how things work, then we would be able to change it. Then we would be simply able to, just like that, change it within the realization that things are just not working out, and it's a flawed system, and it's just not for the benefit of all of mankind. It's not to the benefit of Earth. It's not to the benefit of anything or anyone except for those who have lots and lots of money and who are basically living off of the backs of everyone else in this world, which is a very few people who have everything, who hold all the resources, who hold all the money, the banks, the corporations, the companies, everything. They have everything. And they're basically living off the backs of everyone else in this world. And we have always been accepting that status quo to be what life is and how it simply is, and unchangeable, because we were never properly educated, because the way we were raised and educated in this world was always as a slave, as to simply accept what's being presented to us and to simply live according to what is already here and never question it and simply accept how it is. For instance, through, education is a very powerful tool. I mean, through, for instance, history, through, for instance, philosophy, through, for instance, anthropology, and all those kinds of educational stuff. For instance, Darwinism, Darwin, this guy who apparently discovered the secret to life, the apparent answer, solution, the answer to what life is. Life is survival of the fittest. That is life. And we believed it. We believed it. We thought, yes, that is the answer to life. That is Darwinism. That is the evolution of mankind. That is the evolution of life. We are just a product of evolution. This is who we really are. We are survival of the fittest. We are survival. We are competition. We are fight, struggle, conflict, war. This is who we are. This is simply part of us. It's in our system. It's in our nature. It's just who we are. But have a look. It came to us through education. And education has actually in that way enabled us to come to an acceptance of, a blind acceptance of the way things are at this moment, the status quo. Because if you have a look, if you actually do your own investigation into how things really work, then you may notice that capitalism is survival of the fittest. That is capitalism. Capitalism as the economical system, as that which manages life on earth for the human being, as the system that we all exist in. Capitalism is based around and built around the principle of to each his own, and fight for survival, comparison, struggle, survival of the fittest, selfishness, self-centeredness. That is what capitalism is based on. So the whole point of survival of the fittest doesn't have anything to do with life. We don't even know what life is. And the fact that we were being taught about Darwinism as the apparent, answer of what life is, shows us that we have been seriously brainwashed into accepting capitalism as life, into accepting capitalism as what life just is. And as long as we accept that, then we'll never question it, because how could we possibly question life? I mean, life is what life is, it is what it is. Never realizing that, within that, never actually considering that things might be different. Within that, accepting the hell that we live in, accepting the whole system of competition, accepting the struggle, the conflict, the fear, the insecurity, the uncertainty, the unsafety that we experience daily, accepting poverty, accepting starvation, accepting abuse, accepting the exploitation of earth, accepting the elite, accepting people who exploit others, accepting the whole, because it's all part of the game of competition. So we simply accept it as the status quo, we simply accept that because we have allowed ourselves to become completely brainwashed by this idea of Darwinism as the idea and the belief that capitalism is life. Capitalism is how life simply is, as survival of the fittest. Believing that, survival of the fittest is life, instead of realizing that survival of the fittest is actually a result of capitalism. Survival of the fittest is not... because what is life? How come we believe that life has to be defined and determined in the first place? Why should we be defined and determined in the first place? We are life, aren't we? We are here, so we are alive, so we are self-determining and self-directive beings and self-responsible beings, so in that way we can basically shape and mold life as what is best for all, and as a heaven on earth, which is basically what is simply the very best. And why haven't we done that? Because we've allowed ourselves to actually be completely programmed and brainwashed from the moment that we were born into this system that basically told us about, oh, this is life. Life is survival of the fittest. Life is survival. Life is competition. Life is a struggle, a conflict, a fight, a strife. We've allowed ourselves to be brainwashed by, what those in power had to say to us about what life apparently is, so that we would accept capitalism as what life is, and then we would never ever try to change the system, because it would even feel like blasphemy. It would even feel like we're betraying God by questioning capitalism, because because God apparently created life, and life is apparently survival of the fittest, which is capitalism. So if we question capitalism and survival of the fittest, we're questioning God. So that's why no one ever stood up. That's why we have not changed or stopped starvation, poverty, any of it. That's why we are passively watching everything collapse. We are passively watching how people get murdered and starved and abused in all forms, and how, sexual slavery, things like that. We are passively watching it from our couch, watching it on our television, and we may not like it or complain about it or have some kind of opinion about it, but when it comes down to it, we feel powerless and we feel useless, and we feel like, but this is reality, this is the system, this is survival of the fittest, it's just how it is. So obviously, this is not how it is. This is not life. In fact, life is who we are, and that means that life is actually yet to be determined by ourselves. And life is able to be determined by ourselves. Life is able to be discovered by ourselves. Life is able to be molded and shaped by ourselves as living beings, to actually create a heaven on earth, which is what is best for all living beings, as what is ultimately best for ourselves as a living being, as life. So that's the apparent invisible forces that that are used to get people to accept how the world works, and that are used to keep people in a passive state, wherein they actually believe that life, that reality, how we experience reality, cannot possibly be changed because it's just life. It's how it is. It's evolution, it's God, it's creation, whatever. It's just how it is. So I would suggest to have a look at how life is actually really functioning and where everything comes from, because I for myself have actually discovered that life, as how I've always been accepting it, and the world is how I've always been accepting it, and my experience of the world has never, it's always been just an illusion. It's always been these belief systems, these things that I've allowed myself to believe about reality as what I've simply copied from my parents and from the world, from the educational system, because I had this trust, because I automatically believed. I was very gullible to believe everything that was being presented to me as the truth and how it is. However, I came to quite a surprise and quite a shock to realize that basically everything I've always believed myself and reality to be has been a lie, has been an illusion. Because how can this be reality? Seriously, if you look at your experience in this reality, if you look at what is happening in the world, this is hell. Earth is hell. This is how we experience Earth. And we want to get the fuck out of here, and that's why so many people are searching for a heaven, are waiting for heaven, hoping for heaven. That's why so many people even kill themselves. That's why so many people go into spirituality and want to believe that aliens exist, and want to believe that, spirits exist, angels, guides, whatever it is. That's why so many people want to believe in so many things, because we're looking for a way out, because Earth has really turned into hell, because that's what we have allowed to exist by having allowed ourselves to become completely passive and accepting the status quo. So within these realizations that reality is in fact not what we've been taught and what we believe it to be, within that we can stand up and change it, live the change, be the change, and stand up for what is best for all, within the realization that we are not powerless beings, within the realization that I exist here, and the way that the world is working right now, and it's just unacceptable. This cannot be life. This cannot be how it is. This cannot be creation. It's unacceptable. It has to change. Not only for me, but for everyone and everything in this world. Destruction cannot be the way that the human simply is. War and conflict, abuse, starvation, poverty, destruction cannot be who the human being is. That's unacceptable. How can that be life? Seriously. How can the very destruction of life as nature and the planet and earth and animals and everything that is actually alive, how can that be real? How can that even be life? How can the human being even be living when it's destroying life? That's just unacceptable. So investigate equal money and equal money system at equalmoney.org to see and consider for yourself just how, what is possible. To consider that things aren't the way we've been taught, and change is actually possible despite of what we believe and despite of how we've always been feeling about reality and about ourselves. Because, we are here, we are alive, and we have the power to stand up and to shape and mold life into what is best for life, because that is the only acceptable solution, and that is what an equal money system is offering and representing, is the change within the human lifestyle into bringing about a heaven on earth, wherein all living beings will be honored and respected to become who they really are, and to express themselves as who they really are, and to actually, in a way, attain their utmost potential. Because at the moment what we're doing is suppressing the expression of every being by destroying everything, by exploiting, abusing, consuming everything that is here. We are literally, for instance, every child that is born is immediately suppressed and is immediately pushed down and tried to be molded and shaped into this already laid out form of what we believe that life has to look like, as this, you know, pre-designed standard of living that we all just have to look the same within, because that is what the capitalist system requires of us, wherein we have to fight for our survival, and wherein, you know, you will only be able to survive if you manage to comply to a certain shape and form that will enable you to actually manipulate other human beings and deceive other human beings the best possible way, because that's the only way you'll ever really be successful and make a lot of money in this world, and that's the only way you'll able to really truly survive and live comfortably in this world. So that's just unacceptable. And this is not what life is. We have created actually death and destruction. That's what we've created. But, you know, this is not, it's just unacceptable, and it's not who we are. We are life, and in a way, you know, life has yet to be discovered. And with an equal money system, we will actually support life to truly evolve, to truly be able to express itself fully to its fullest potential. So go and check it out. Yeah, thanks.